Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Backstage Bimbo TV. My name is Allison Rouse, your most notorious groupie, and author of We've Got Tonight, The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie, me. That's right, folks. Welcome back. It's so great to meet all the new people I'm meeting, to have created such a great bond and interest from all over the world. Thank you guys so much for all the love and positivity you're showing me, all the participation. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. And for this week's Rocky Talkie, we're going to approach a subject that either people here approach me very respectfully in just a normal conversation way, or they go onto my Amazon book page, hiding behind their keyboard warrior selves, and try and insult me and degrade and belittle me with their high and mighty attitudes. Mostly it was my ex's side horse, but the hater fans, like, the Spammy DeBarses or the Almost Famous crowd, they tend to feed off this and leave these hateful fake reviews. So we are going to talk about the women at home versus the groupies on the road. And for that cocktail, we're going to have what a lovely wife. So everybody, kick up your heels, grab your lovely wives, and let's have a Rocky Talkie, shall we? Cheers, big ears. I was going to do one called The Pretty Poison because, this could get poisonous, this conversation, but it's not. Anyway, so like I said, one of two ways a lot of people have approached me about the women at home and how groupies or rock stars handle the women at home. For starters, it's not our fucking job. It's the musician's job to be dealing with what's going on at home. Not ours. It's their job to be honest and open, which, like I said in the previous last week's midweek Rocky Talkie about the emotions, the honesty and the communication keeps things moving very smoothly and respectfully in rock and roll. And being honest with what's going on at home so your woman, the groupie, can choose the kind of woman she wants to be is the most important thing in any rock and roll, in any relationship, friendship, online, in life, engagement, marriage. Communication and honesty is always the number one thing. So if a rock star chooses to be honest with me, which we all know, Henrik. Oh, no, we haven't gotten to that one yet. Henrik was not honest with me. That's all I'm going to say about that. So when I did find out, it destroyed a really great relationship because there wasn't honesty. And it's never the person who is being truthful and respectful and honest and communicative. It's never their fault. It's the person who's creating the lies. And don't blame the groupie for creating these lies, because it's always the man in the middle who lies to the wife at home or lies to the groupie on the road. Okay? So it's not my job to honor. I will respect other women the best that I can with the knowledge that I have. I love other women. I empower them. I am not someone who likes to degrade other women or to hurt people who don't hurt me. I don't like that at all. I like to be honest and open and keep things cohesive and respectful, because in that you build good things. In lies and deceit, you do not. Which is why most rock stars are divorced, and why I always say I love my musicians. They're incredible men. They're kind, loving, respectful, protectful, chivalrous men, but they are shitty husbands. And this is one of the reasons why. Because like I said, Frankie Valli, my favorite Broadway musical is the Frankie Valli. God, I forget the name of it. Why can't I just have it? Anyway, in this, he talks about having your family at home and your family on the road. Now, it is the musicians and their personal assistant, their guitar techs, bass tech, whatever, what their roadies' obligation. Like when John died, John was actually broken up with his girlfriend already. She had already moved out of the main house. He was making the money to set her up on her own and get her out of his life. But people don't know that. But we'll get into the reason why in a minute. So when she was at home, I knew she was at home, but I knew they were also broken up. But it was his obligation. Hold on. Okay, sorry guys for that break. I sometimes forget what I'm talking about. It's disturbing because Alzheimer's runs in my family, so kind of disturbing. But anyway, where I was going with that subject, John had Cy, God rest his soul. Cy's recently passed away this year, probably due to COVID, I'm pretty sure. But Cy was John's guy at keeping the road away from home, the girlfriend at home. Even though Lisa at the time was still the ex-girlfriend, and she was a fucking nightmare. John didn't deserve that. Because everybody thinks that because you're the woman at home, you're the saint, you're the queen, you're sweet, you're kind, you don't deserve. Oh no, there's women at home that are nightmares. There's groupies that are nightmares. It's non-specific, you know, non-genderifying, being a nightmare is not for the groupie on the road. Trust me. So John and him were broken up, but when the news hit about me, Cy worked his ass off to keep the home away from the road. And before that news hit, everything, and even after it hit, everything, even years later, that was Cy's natural instinct. And he was really good at keeping the road away from home. He was. So, you know, that's their job to respect what's at home, not mine. If I know there's someone at home, I will back off, especially as you get older. Now, in the 80s, because this is the thing, what I said about, you know, people didn't know that John and Lisa were already broken up, that she was moved out of the main house into one of the guest house. So what people need to do before they start accusing me and throwing their hatred in insults and uneducated rants, do your Google research, because you're going to find out that the majority of the time, the rock stars, it's easier for me to tell you the two that were married. Three, that had either had a wife or a girlfriend at home. 3 out of 78. Because in the 80s, we were all so young. I mean, we were too young to be married. A lot of us were teenagers, even the musicians, when we were all starting out and getting to know each other, either in our really super early 20s or in our teens. All of us, the musicians, the groupies, even the women at home, you know, so we were too young to be married. Like when I was with James, he wasn't married. So those of you accusing me of disrespecting Fran, he didn't know Fran until after James and I broke up. We broke up our road family. And in the 80s, the road family was number one. People were on the road more than they were at home for 2-3 years at a time. Not 2-3 months, take a couple months break, out again like they do now. I mean, they were out for 2-3 months at a time. They'd have a week off, go back out for another 6 months, have a couple weeks off over the holidays, if that, maybe a few days, and then go back out on the road. So the road family was the prominent family back in the day. Like I said, in the 80s, there was nobody at home for these rock stars for me to be worrying about. There were no wives. Nikki Sixx, not married, no girlfriend. James broke up with his girlfriend. Not married. Didn't meet Fran until after we were broken up. Vinnie Paul, never married. And this is after the 80s. Steve Jones, oh, fuck no, never married, no girlfriend at home. And Vinnie didn't have a girlfriend at home either. Glenn Tipton, divorced. No girlfriend at the time. Do you see my pattern? So you guys that are throwing these insults at me, do your research, because you're going to find out. James Hetfield is not the man he is now with the family and kids that most of their fans have seen in their lifetime. Same with, Joe Perry's been married through all of our lifetimes. And yes, he was one of the married ones that I messed around with. But his wife shouldn't have told me to stay away from her husband because I didn't want her husband. I was with James Lomenzo from White Lion enjoying my hot little bass player. And I'd see Billy and Joe walking around backstage or at the hotel. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Have a nice conversation. Go on our merry way. Well, she pulls me aside one time and says, I'm going to tell you, I have to go home for the next month, blah, blah, whatever. And she knew they were coming to Salt Lake City without White Lion. So she told me, I'm going to tell you now, stay away from my husband. I see the way he looks at you. Not the way I was looking at him. Not any flirty moves I was doing, because I was respecting the man I was with, who was respectful of me. I was just making pleasant conversation with another rock and roll couple. But she had to pull me aside and tell me that, thinking that low and disrespectful of me. So I looked at her and I said, you know what? I didn't want your husband, but because you said that, big mistake. Huge. Now I'm going to fuck your husband. So I fucked her husband a second time. I don't write this in the book, but see, that's the kind of thing. Never assume that the groupies are the villains, because we're not. And never assume that James Hetfield was married to Fran long before I met him. No, he met her long after he and I had met, and a year and a half after he and I had broken up. And like I said, Steve Jones never married. Vincent Paul never married. His widow, girlfriend, partner that he left when he passed away, she was 12 when Vinny and I broke up. So for those, trying to hurl these insults to me, just because you feel like a big badass person hiding behind your warrior keyboards or whatever, do your research, because it's not throwing insults at me. It's just showing your ignorance and the type of heart and soul you have, which is muddy, and that you only live in that empty abyss we call the ego. Because like I said, there was Joe Perry, married. Henrik, obviously. Who was the third? Well, I don't know the third, to be honest. I mean, I'm sure there was other women at home that I might not have known about, but all I can do personally, myself, is ask the musician, because back then we didn't have the internet like you super sleuths do now, that you can do, and don't pay attention to who's dated who. That's not necessarily right. The only relationships they get right are the actual marriages, because there's paper to look at online. There's wedding dates, there's announcements, there's all this stuff. But we did not have that. So as groupies, all we could do was rely on the boys to be honest with us. And we were always honest with them, because what do we have to hide? They know we're groupies. They know we see other musicians. And 99% of the time they are honest. So that we as women, as girls, as groupies can decide the kind of woman we want to be, whether we do want to go down that path, or whether we want to have a little bit more respect and not hurt someone at home that hasn't been hurting us. I tend to go down the path that I'm not going to be messing with this stuff, because I'm a champion for relationships. I think the longer the relationship lasts, I'm rooting for it. Even though I hate Fran, I call her the Metallo Yoko. They've been together 30 years. Oh my God, keep going. Get to the stretch. I know you guys are having your problems right now, but 30 years, that's a lot of fucking love, family, time, effort, energy, passion, memories, everything to be giving up so easy. And to give up, no, go for it, folks. I hope they last forever. Even though I hate Fran, but last forever. I don't hate Fran because she took James. Let's get this straight. Groupies don't hate the women at home because they have the keys or the papers to own that man. No. Groupies don't hate anybody at home because most of the time there was nobody at home, or the musicians might have not been so truthful and told us about who may be at home. So don't paint the groupies as the villains. We're just girls out there loving the music, being part of the road family, being kept away. These guys are stealth. They are practiced pros at knowing how to keep the road family away from the home family. So, sorry, I'm getting a phone call and I don't always know that, there we go. Anyway, so I can't always see. I'm getting a phone call and I always think it stops. So if I stop for a second, sorry. So yeah, I mean, we're not the villains. I'm relying on the honesty of the man that I'm having the one night stand, the road relationship that I'm being a road wife to, that I'm having many, many years with. I'm relying on his honesty. I've always been honest. I have nothing to hide from anybody that I'm dating, in a relationship with, in a long-term lover situation, I never lie because I have nothing to hide. And lying complicates things. Which is one of the reasons I never wanted to be the woman at home, because inevitably your man's going to lie to you. Because there are going to be groupies who don't give a shit about the woman at home. Even though they know. They don't give a fuck. So they'll go sleep with their man. They'll try to, and that's fine. Go sleep with their man as long as there's no emotions involved. Because also as a woman at home, they have to worry about their man falling for someone else out on the road. Because they have different personalities on the road. They have to be the rock star. They have to be this and that. And, you know, when they come off the stage, there's a pretty hard emotional crash a lot of the times. And it's not the wife who's there for them. It's the groupies, the road wives. Not the back lunch betties, not the starfuckers or ramp rats, the groupies and road wives. We're there for those rock stars more than their wives are. We've seen them through stuff that their wives never even know happened. I would much rather be the groupie on the road because at least there is that transparency. And I'm not being lied to and I'm not being hurt. Because like I said, I have no reason to lie to anybody. To a musician, to Richard from Poland, to anybody. I am always honest 100%. If I'm saying I'm being loyal and faithful, I am. If I'm in a relationship, I'm there. So, you know, you have to rely on other people that you hope have the same heart and soul that you do. And then in the long run, sometimes you find out they don't. So you got to let that go, because if they're not on the same page with you, they're just going to destroy you and your reputation and your feelings about yourself. So when you're on the road, always be honest. Always be open with your guys. I mean, don't sit around talking about other bands or say, yeah, I fuck other rock stars. It kind of goes without saying, you know. And like I said in my previous vlog about the emotions, it helps keep you at arm's length. It helps you decide the kind of woman you want to be for yourself. Because every woman should have that freedom to choose. With the full information of communication and honesty, that helps her choose the kind of woman she wants to be. And if she wants to be the woman at home, you know, it takes a lot of strength to be the woman at home too. Because she knows she has to let part of her man go that most marriages and relationships have on lockdown. And the groupie knows she's got to let go of her man to go home to a woman that has ownership papers. So there's a give and take on both sides. There's sacrifices on both sides, being the groupie and the road wife and the woman at home. You know, it's so different, but we meet in the middle. And, you know, I've met some of the wives out on the road of the other band members, because usually when a wife comes out on the road, of course, if it's your guy's woman from home, you're not going to be there. But if it's another band member's woman, even then, you are kept very, very separate. The musicians just kind of, no, let's just go to the gig and go back to the hotel. Oh, let's just go out to dinner by ourselves. The musicians are good at steering the wives away from the groupies, from the other band members, because they don't want them to, you know, the wives are going to watch what the other band members are doing with the groupies and see how comfortable and natural it is and realize, yes, my husbands are going to be doing this. And while they may subconsciously know this, they don't need it thrown in their faces. And vice versa with the groupies, when the other wives come out, or, you know, you're sitting in the hotel room and he says, don't answer the phone, or his cell phone rings these days and he's talking to a woman at home. God, it's so uncomfortable and it just kills the mood. Another reason to date musicians who don't have someone at home or not married, or, you know, and as you get older, you just grow the fuck up and you start to think more about how your actions affect other people and the mark you leave in their lives. Because there are still sexually transmitted diseases. What if you get with a guy and a guy gets with some skanky fucking ramp rat, gets something and takes it home to his wife, or gives it to the groupie or several other groupies? I mean, there's so many other factors that you have to think about when being the groupie and the woman at home. And like I said, it all falls down to the musician in the center of it all to be the honorable one. The wife at home, the groupie on the road, they can be as honest and honorable and loyal and faithful as they want to be. But it all comes down to the person who's standing in the middle trying to balance it all out. Like the scales, the Lady Justice scales, she's standing in between. And he's trying to balance each side. And they never meet. If you think about it, they never meet. And that's the why wives versus groupies happens on the road. It's not necessarily that the wives hate the groupies, because like I've said, I've hung out with some really cool ass wives. One of the Nickelback, yes, I've been to Nickelback shows. Thank you, Oris, for that, because he was their sound guy. So I hang out with Oris. So yeah, and I met one of their wives. She was cool. Carla, Joe Elliott's first wife. I love her. She was so much fun on the road. A few other wives. There's one wife. She and I are only allowed 2 hours to hang out when we're together because we get into troubles. It's like having a girls' night out, you know. So we're only allowed 2 hours. So there's some really amazing wives at home. And I have been the woman at home. And I have been the woman on the road. So I know the difference. And having been the woman on the road first, I have a totally different, clear view than most wives. I'm not going to gloss anything over. You know, I know what's happening. I know what cities you've got your girls in, because one of the other perks of being the groupie, when you're out on the road with the guys, you meet other groupies. And especially in like the late 80s to the 90s, I used to keep check on my men, because other groupies, I'd call them and be like, hey, so-and-so's coming, so-and-so's coming into your town, and, tell me what happens. Because I knew they weren't after my man, but they would go in and they would either be bait and, or, just watch him and observe and report back to me. The wives don't have that, because the road crew, they're always going to protect the road. They're always going to protect the band. They're not going to be honest with the groupies. They're not going to be honest with the wives at home either. So the only people that are really honest in the whole situation are the wives and groupies. So see, the groupies are not the villains everybody thinks we are. People spend so much time applauding rock stars for having a harem of women, and it's just a right because they're rock stars. We should start applauding those groupies, because you think the rock stars have a hard time balancing it? Try being a groupie with 10 other lovers happening at the same time, especially in the 80s. Not now, because like I said, we all grow up and we start to date differently according to our age, and we have more respect for the domino effect of things and how other people feel. But, try being a groupie with, you've got 10 guys that you're trying to juggle, and the rock star knows you probably are sleeping with someone else, and you're trying to keep everything in line, like their interest and the things you've done together. But what, that was it, you and me in Chicago? Oh, shit. So as a groupie, you have to keep that same balance. So you understand the musicians who do. And you understand why he is the villain, even though you're not being the villain. So don't blame the groupies. Don't sanctify the wives, because they're no saints either. Half those wives met him backstage while they were one of the harem of groupies on the road. Whether they be models or normal women or actresses or whatever, they all met him backstage. Same way that us groupies did. And actresses can be groupies too. Just because they're the woman at home doesn't mean they weren't groupies either. Because most women at home were groupies. And the people who set us apart, Hollywood, the hater fans, the road crew, and the musicians. That's the only thing that sets us apart, and they go out of their way to keep us apart. And what can come out of deception and lies? Destruction. Another reason I always keep my rock lovers at arm's length, because it's going to end. Sooner or later, it will end. Whether you're married to him or not, that's why many rock stars have 2, 3, 4 wives. Very rarely do they have one wife. And the ones that do have one wife have cheated. Absolutely. You guys really think James Hetfield went to rehab for alcohol? Please. It's because he couldn't keep his dick in his pants. I've already talked about his bleeding ulcer and him cutting down his alcohol in previous vlogs. So there you guys go. Quit butting us groupies against the housewives. Quit comparing us to the women at home. Because what it comes down to, we're all pretty much the same women. We have to have a certain faith and trust, not in the physical side of our love, but the emotional side of our relationships. We all have a strength that most women at home don't. And we all have a different set of honor and morals and values that we respect with each other. In my dating experience, dating a rock star is way more, and the groupies and wives at home are way more decent human beings than the normal people I've seen. Especially in small towns, y'all bitches be screwing everybody and scandalous and then turning around and pointing fingers. At least groupies and rock wives, we keep things real. We know the truth and we're not hiding from it. So there you guys go. There's my rant and ramble for today about wives versus groupies. It's really not a death match between us. It's just we're trying to help this musician keep his balance. The groupies are. And the wives are trying to pretend that this side of the scales don't exist. So blame the guy in the middle. Don't blame the people at home or the women on the road. Okay? So there you guys go. I hope that gives you a little bit more insight as to the real, actual rapport and why things are the way they are. You think these wives at home don't marry into rock and roll and they marry in going, yeah, my husband's going to be faithful to me? No rock wife I've met, well, a couple of them maybe, but the majority of rock wives that I've met are quite intelligent, strong women, just like the groupies. So nobody's fooling anybody over here, and we're all just trying to keep a happy, cohesive balance that keeps our lives happy and cohesive. So let's keep everything happy and cohesive around here, guys, by hitting my bell so you know when I'm coming up with another cocktail or rocktail or midweek rocky talkie. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the share button so that more people in the world can hear my stupid little stories and enjoy it, and we can help. You guys can 100% help me get this signed into a deal for a series or a movie. A lot of people have suggested it, and it is what I want. It is the goal of all this. But let's get me out there more, because that's what YouTube, that's what producers, that's what people want to see. A lot of people liking and participating. And for everybody who has started from day one and is coming along with me in this early time where I'm forming all this and it's all kind of in the process of happening, you guys are awesome. You guys are the legs I stand on, and I love you guys so much. I can't even ever stop thanking you enough. And I enjoy talking to everybody, and especially Nicole. Get your ass back to Germany and find your happiness. Okay? All right, love you guys. Hit my bells, hit the subscribe, hit the share button, and we'll see you next week for some more Rocky Talkies and Cocktails and Rocktails. Cheers, big ears.